after the U.S. Open. She just decided to take time off, came back last year. This time, right after this tournament, ranked outside the top 30, and all of a sudden rolls on the clay and wins the French Open. So very tough mentally, but she's had her ups and downs with injuries and illness.
And saying that, I still wish she had finished that match and let Mauresmo celebrate there. But look, she's come back. She's won a title since the Australian Open, so she's answered some questions there. Gisela Dulko, a solid competitor. She's been hanging around the top 30, Mary Jo, the last couple of years. What does she have to do to have really any chance to upset Justine tonight?
Well, I mean, she's very quick around the court, and she's been very consistent in her career. She's saying that she's playing her best tennis ever here this year at the Pacific Life. She reached the quarters a couple years ago, beating Petrova. That was her biggest win so far. But really, everything has to come together for Gisela Dulko. Have Justine Henin be a little bit off. Her big win in this tournament came over Golovin, where she fought back the whole way, was down 5-1, then tiebreak in the final set, saved the match point. Saved the match point. But she's a tough competitor. She'll hang in there. She will fight. She always beats those players she's supposed to beat, and has trouble against the top players.
She had a win, didn't she, over Martina Navratilova? She did, and back-to-back, in fact. That was when Martina decided to come back and try her hand at singles, and Martina didn't give her much of a match at the French, but actually played pretty well against her at Wimbledon. But she'll have her hands full. Justine has cruised through the field so far, Mary Jo, and taking care of business very quickly in her first couple matches.
She's been so impressive. She's coming off the win in Dubai over Sharapova in the final, and she's only lost 7 games. She had a love against Japan's Nakamura, then against the veteran Sugiyama, 2-1. So she's not been tested at all. So hopefully tonight we'll see a more competitive match, but she's looking very, very solid.
Justine Henin has won a significant amount of titles in her career, that's obvious. And Gisela Dulko just hoping to make this somewhat of a match tonight. The winner of this match will take on Elena Dementieva. She had a 3-set win today. You see Justine at 23, Dulko 21. Her highest rank was at 26. She's now at 29 in the world. But she's won a lot more matches than she's lost. 176, played a lot of tennis. Justine closing in on 400 career wins in singles. And I tell you, the women's game right now, Mary Jo, I mean, we see Federer dominating on the men's side. The women's side, I mean, you've got 4 or 5 legitimate contenders to be #1.
Absolutely, and I think that makes it fun for the players, makes it fun for the fans. Justine Henin, obviously one of the favorites always when she's healthy, and she's the favorite tonight against the Argentine.
Henin set to serve. We're live in the desert. First point of the match. I mentioned that opening match we have for you tomorrow, Sharapova-Hingis, and then following that will be the men's quarterfinal. James Blake will take on Igor Andreev, the man who took out Andy Roddick. So excellent lineup tomorrow.
Let that ball drop just a little too much. And Henin, she's been working on moving forward. Her coach, Carlos Rodriguez, really wants her to get to net more often. Take advantage of those heavy topspin ground strokes, her great slice. And to me, it's so interesting because when I think of Justine Henin, I think of a very aggressive player, someone who can play all-court tennis. Her coach since Justine was 14 years old, Carlos Rodriguez from Argentina, told me a couple times that she doesn't feel comfortable at the net. She gets scared to come forward. Well, she really has to fight herself.
And obviously in matches that she can dominate, Mary Jo, as she's done throughout this tournament, I think that's why Carlos wants her to come forward, just to get used to it. And maybe when we've talked about the illnesses and the problems she had, to save herself a little bit. She has to work so hard. She's obviously a lot smaller than the players she's playing against, the Kleisters, Mauresmo, the Davenports, the Sharapovas. So she has to work extremely hard. And if she can get in and finish some points at net, it might conserve some energy in the long run for her. That's really what Dulko has to do, isn't it, Mary Jo, to take some chances on the return.
Definitely has to gamble a little bit. Her brother is her coach, and he said before this match she just has to be as aggressive as possible. That's why she's winning more matches. Needs to flatten out her strokes a little bit. She's a very good doubles player, Dulko. She won 3 doubles titles at the end of last year in a row with different partners. So he wants her to get to net a little bit more.
That's the problem. You come in against Justine Henin, you better hit a real good approach shot. An easy hold for the top seed. The first round of the NCAA Women's Championship gets underway on ESPN2 Saturday afternoon. Regional action starting at 1 o'clock Eastern. Middle Tennessee State takes on Utah in a nice 12-5 matchup. Then Pepperdine, the big underdog, against the number 2 seed Oklahoma. NCAA Women's Championship presented by Orbitz. That's on ESPN2 Saturday at 1 o'clock Eastern. ESPN, your exclusive home for the Women's NCAA Championship.
It's just basketball fever everywhere.
Yep, it's all over. Men's tournament underway today. Dulko's certainly been able to pick up her game in the last couple of years, Mary Jo, and she's had a nice rise.
She really has. I mean, the last 2 or 3 years, she's been very, very consistent. She plays a lot of tournaments, and like we mentioned earlier, she wins a couple rounds almost every time. So now she's just trying to get that next breakthrough, break into the top 20 for the first time in her career. Brother on her left, her coach Alejandro. He's been coaching her for the last 2.5 years. He tried playing a little bit on the tour.
Yeah, he was out there until he was about 18. Good aggressive forehand there from Dulko. It's Alejandro.
Her mom's with Gisela as well this week. Yep, 2 straight doubles. Now, Cliff and I, Mary Jo, we've been doing the men's matches this week. Have been talking a lot about the challenge system and the shot spot technology that will be used. What's the feeling in the women's locker room about that? Are they happy about it? What's the general feeling? I think the majority are happy about it. I know Maria Sharapova is very happy about it. So Dulko played with the challenge system at the Hopman Cup, the exhibition event, men and women, right before the Australian Open a couple weeks before, and she thought it was great. I know Lindsay Davenport's a little bit like Roger Federer, more of a traditionalist. Old school, right. Just leave things be.
I think it's going to be excellent. There's a bundled up look there. It's very chilly this week for this time of year in the desert, particularly in the evenings. It's actually, quite honestly, hurt some of the crowds, I think, at night here. Their day sessions have been packed. But people not used to coming out watching tennis in the mid-40s. A little bit better tonight. Game point. Excellent depth there from Henin Arden on the forehand. You could see her sort of hesitate too there, Mary Jo. She was thinking about coming in.
That's what she's working on, trying to move in a little bit more often.
She's really a good volleyer, though.
She has great technique, yeah. I mean, again, I mean, she reminds me a little bit of Maresma. I mean, she can do it all out there with the one-handed backhand. The slice helps her get into net.
She's obviously lacking in the reach department up there with her height, so that may be part of that hesitancy she has. Ace from Dulko, that's first one. Good pace on that at 111. Someone up in the crowd having a little too much fun. We're going to keep them down. And some Dulko holds on. Some disappointing news we just heard off of ESPN.com that Serena Williams pulled out, Mary Jo, the NASDAQ down in Miami. As,
she continues to struggle with injuries and fitness.
You really have to just start wondering when she's going to come back, and if she does. I mean, her ranking's already fallen, what, to the 40s?
Yeah, after Australia. She lost early, was the defending champion there.
I really wonder how much she wants to come back at this point.
But I hope that when she does come back, she comes back when she's 100%.
That's true.
You know, to come back 50% and not 100% fit, it's just not fair to herself. I mean, she was so good for so long and such a great athlete that she owes it to herself to get the best prepared as possible.
Oh, yes. Very aggressive there with the forehand.
It's been such an improved shot in Henin Arden's game. The forehand, she runs around the backhand, which has always been her strength. To open up the court, and she hits so many more winners now from the forehand.
It's amazing. I mean, I remember a couple years ago, Mary Jo, it was all about her backhand and how that's such, I mean, it's still obviously a great shot, but forehand is really her big weapon now. That's the one she looks to finish points with. There's a big forehand from Dulko. She's come out taking her swings here.
You know she has to against Henin Arden. She's got to take some chances, gamble. She takes this one early, flattens it out a little bit, and just lets it rip up the line.
15-30. What I wanted to ask you about, Mary Jo, reminded me in the opening, we were talking about Dulko and beating Martina Navratilova, of course, talking about one of the greats of all time. What's her status? I know I think she's played one tournament in doubles this year. I know she's injured a little bit, but I think she's coming back. Okay.
She's planning on coming back.
We know she'll be 100% if she comes back.
And she's close to 50, right?
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. Also impressive what your brother just did recently.
47, won the doubles title in San Jose. You know,
I'm always amazed at these comebacks from these top players, that they're able to come back so quickly. They play so well right away. I mean, remember Celis was out for a couple of years after the stabbing, and she comes back, wins the Canadian Open, finals of the US Open, wins the Australian Open. Capriati had a couple ups and downs trying to come back, but then she gets herself in shape and gets to #1. Good.
Justine comes into net. Another good forehand. That's another one I want to ask you about, Mary Jo. Capriati. See when have any news for us on her. 2-1 and an Arden first.